is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have ourselves a jam-packed show as we have a lot of volleyball to get to, such as Miami, the U, taking down number 5 Stanford. How impressive was the Hurricanes' win over Stanford? Also, how about Missouri? Mizzo taking down Texas in SEC play. In addition to Texas losing to Missouri, Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry taking down Texas as well. What is going on in Longhorn land? Also, Mater Dei is back in the CIF Southern Section Division I Grove Volleyball Championship, and they'll face Sierra Canyon, who have themselves quite an interesting Saturday, if you ask me. And the AVP League Championship has been finalized for the 4 teams they'll be clashing against one another at Dixie Health Sports Park. Cameo Volleyball, that's the next, because I'm about to deliver the volleyball action here on Set Point. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you've made your way to episode 271 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on Spreaker or on StreamYard for that matter. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of this month. And with your help, we will be able to accomplish that. And if we do accomplish that, or if we even reach 500 for that matter, I will do a giveaway or I will do something special. Also, make sure to check out iSports Radio on several different podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music /Audible, Castbox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podchaser, GeoSalvin. The list goes on and on. And make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our pages dedicated to each podcast, such as Set Point, our merchandise shop, which unfortunately these polos are not included, but we do have all sorts of iSports Radio t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, long sleeves. The list goes on and on, as well as some other iSports Radio merchandise. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. The way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point_IE, on Instagram, at @set_point_IESR, and I'm also available on Facebook with Set Point, which I got to start continuously keeping that updated. And you can follow me, the host, Teran Rodriguez, on X, formerly known as Twitter, personally, at Teran Rodriguez1. Before we get on into the volleyball action, we have to give word to our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. And also, let's talk to you all about what IE Sports Radio is and what it's been around and how long it's been. So without any further delay, let's do this.
Hi, eSports Radio fans. This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm. single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors, Planet Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals. Also, make sure to check out iSportsRadio.com, where you will see the set point, which is dedicated to my podcast, which is dedicated to this podcast. All right, now let's get on into the volleyball action, as we have quite a bit of volleyball to discuss, and we're going to hopefully get this done in about maybe an hour and 15 minutes, maybe no more than like an hour and 20, but I digress. All right, so week 10 of the NCAA women's volleyball season is in the book. So week 10 pretty much got started on Tuesday, where we had number 19 Dayton sweeping Duquesne. Let's be honest, Dayton is pretty much going to run through the A10 conference. The only way I don't see Dayton not running through the conference is if someone trips them up or they trip themselves up. So you have that right there. Jumping over to Wednesday, we had number 3 Penn State sweeping Michigan, which I'm kind of surprised Penn State swept Michigan since they've been in battles throughout the entire season against some of these Big Ten opponents. But it's still a good win for Penn State, and Michigan is still a solid team. Unfortunately, they just did not have enough against the Nittany Lions. Also, we had number 4 Louisville sweeping Notre Dame. Number 8 Kansas taking down Texas Tech in 4. That was quite a little surprising. And then we had this big win right here. We had Washington taking down number 10 Oregon in 5. That was a big win because if you remember the first meeting, Washington had a nice little lead in set 5. I think they led. It was something like 9-4, and then Oregon just came back and wound up winning, which was pretty impressive. That was at Matthew Knight Arena. Then now this time, Washington was able to pay back Oregon for that win. It was a huge win for Washington, biggest win of the season by far, and I think that might have solidified their spot in the NCAA tournament. I don't see how Washington does not get into the NCAA tournament. If you think Washington doesn't deserve the NCAA tournament, do let me know. But the Huskies have looked really good, and even though they don't have the biggest and most notable wins, I think their body of work has them as a very good team in the Big Ten. Not the greatest team, they're not on the level of Nebraska or Wisconsin or Penn State, but Washington definitely deserves the NCAA tournament. They haven't been to the NCAA tournament I think last year they missed the NCAA tournament. And yes, they did miss the NCAA tournament. I want to say it was 2 straight seasons, but either way, Leslie Gabriel has that team on the up and up, and I really can't wait to see what Washington can do. Also on Wednesday, we had number 17 Baylor taking down Iowa State in 4. Number 18 TCU swept Colorado. Number 24 Florida took down Arkansas on the road in 4, which I thought was a good win right there. Kind of worried me a little, but honestly, it's Florida. They're not going to lose. As long as they have Kennedy Martin, they're not going anywhere. Then we jump to Thursday. Number 13, Arizona State outlasted number 20, BYU on the road in 5. Now, that's a big win for Arizona State, considering it keeps them in the race for the Big 12 championship. And it's never easy to beat BYU on the road. I know Arizona State did that last year in the NCAA tournament, but the Sun Devils, they are just standing above all. But their true big test will be against Kansas, which will be arriving sooner rather than later. And then we had number 21, USC sweeping UCLA at UCLA. That was a big win. It was also impressive just because it's never easy to beat UCLA, or let alone sweep UCLA at UCLA. And if you remember the first go-around, these two teams went the distance. And when it comes to USC, UCLA, throw out the records, cancel your plans, and anything's going to happen. But USC really impressed me. I did not think SC was going to sweep UCLA. I thought that one was at least going 4, but USC pulling off a nice little road win. I wish USC had this when they played Michigan State or Penn State, but I digress in that regard. But for UCLA, my takeaway for them is this. This is obviously not what they were hoping for. I expected a lot better from the Bruins. I mean, Sheridan Leverett is still fantastic, but she can only take UCLA so far. They need other players to step up like Grace Olsen. For USC, this was a nice little win because this snapped their 2-game losing skid, losing to the likes of Michigan State and Penn State. So I think USC they should still be. Look, my thing is they're still going to make the NCAA tournament. UCLA, I mean, UCLA is so tough. I feel UCLA should be in as well. I know I'm looking that far ahead, but I think UCLA has earned the NCAA tournament. Now, UCLA is not going to get like the most glamorous seed, or they're not going to get the most glamorous matchup in the opening round. Heck, they might not. They'll probably get to at least the round of 32. I don't know if they'll get to the Sweet 16, but I think for UCLA, they still are having a good season. I'd be flabbergasted if they found a way to miss the NCAA tournament. I mean, I'm pretty sure UCLA is having a great. They're not having the greatest season, but it's still a good season. Like, it's good to the point where they should make the NCAA tournament, because I highly doubt they're going to play themselves out of making the NCAA tournament. I'm pretty sure they're at least over 500, but let me just confirm that just to be safe, just because UCLA, they're kind of in the middle of the road of being not good enough to compete for the Big Ten championship, but not quite good enough to be bad. Like, obviously, they're not going to be bad, but they still have some good wins. They've been competitive. I mean, yeah, okay. So I can't confirm they are under 500, but let's look at UCLA's remaining matches. So look at the remaining matches. They've got Rutgers, which they should win. It's in New Jersey, but let's be honest, UCLA ain't losing that one. And then they've got Maryland. Okay, that's a Thursday match, and then they've got Maryland on Saturday. Let's be honest, I don't think they're losing that one either. And then they've got Washington, which, I mean, Washington did have that big win over Oregon, but UCLA beat Washington the first go around. So, and it's going to be in Pauley Pavilion. So I imagine UCLA is going to be ready for them this time around. Then they've got Wisconsin, which that's going to be a tough one. That'll be a tough one. And also, it's a brutal start because it's at 7:30 p.m. time. Thanks, Big Ten Network. Then they've got Indiana, which Indiana's kind of underrated. I mean, they're kind of in that slot where they haven't really blown anyone away, but they haven't really been too bad. But Indiana's a good team at home, I imagine. And then after they face Indiana, they've got Illinois. That team is an under the radar team. If there's any team that is not getting a lot of recognition that might deserve some recognition, it's Illinois. I think Illinois deserves some love and recognition. The problem is they haven't like popped out in terms of like who they've really beaten. But I digress. And then November 27th, UCLA has Iowa. I think they can win that one. I imagine that's going to be I imagine that might be their senior night, except. Well, traditionally, they normally have the final game of the season, the final home game of the season as senior night, which would be Oregon, which it's going to be a tough one. Speaking of Oregon, we'll get into that in a little bit, but UCLA's schedule looks very manageable. Like, they're under 500, but the only way I don't see them finishing 500, or the only way I see them finishing below 500 is if their star player, they have bad nights against teams that they normally should be. So they've got 2, carry the 4, -2. They have 8 matches remaining. They can go 4. They can go 5-3. I'm certain they will not lose 4 matches. Like, I just don't see it. Maybe they'll lose to Washington, but they beat them the first time around. Wisconsin's probably going to be their clunker game just because Wisconsin, even though they lost to Nebraska, they're still that team. Oregon, I could see them having a clunker game against them, even though it's senior night and they want to end the regular season off with a win. So the only way I see UCLA playing themselves out of the NCAA tournament is if they go 4-4 the rest of the way. And if that happens, then I don't know what to say about UCLA, because they've had such a solid year. I know they've had some boofs in terms of their non-conference schedule, losing to like Tennessee, but they were ranked at the time. I know they also lost to Davis, which, I mean, Davis, if they win the Big West Conference, maybe that could benefit them, even though Davis lost twice last weekend. But yeah, for UCLA, they at least got to go 5-3. Then we could talk NCAA tournament with them. But for now, I just don't see them. I mean, I just don't see how they don't finish 5-3. They'll finish 5-3 guarantee. They'll have the bad games against Oregon and Wisconsin. Maybe Washington gets them at Pauley Pavilion, but I just don't see how UCLA finds a way to let them finishing above 500 slip through the cracks. I just don't see it. Like, UCLA they have too much talent to be finishing below 500. I mean, I know they're going to get more talent next year when they get that. I forget the girls that's like 6'7", but they're going to get a really talented girl, if not next year, but the following year when she graduates from, I think, IMG. But anyway, that's my UCLA spiel right there. Moving on. Number 22, Utah took down Arizona on Halloween night in 4. That was kind of big right there. That was pretty much that in terms of notable matchups right there on Thursday. So now we jump to Friday, and my God, we're already in the month of November. So November, this was the big match. Pitt versus Virginia, where number 1 Pitt, swept Virginia on the road. Yep, that was the big match of Friday night, November 1st. I ain't fooling y'all, aren't I? The big matchup was number 2 Nebraska at number 7 Wisconsin. Now, last week I pretty much said Wisconsin, they've won 9 in a row, and they're playing Nebraska at home. And it's been a minute since Nebraska has beaten Wisconsin at Wisconsin. I think the last time was either 2012 or 2013. Either way, Nebraska hasn't beaten Wisconsin at Wisconsin in over 10 years. That changed last Friday as Nebraska swept Wisconsin, and by golly, that was a very impressive win by the Huskers. If there was ever a week that they needed to really prove themselves in terms of the Big Ten, that was the week. I was very impressed by Nebraska. They just played such clean volleyball. It could have been because Wisconsin had a little bit younger of a roster, but Nebraska just is a freaking wagon. Not too many teams are going to be stopping that team. So a very good win by Nebraska, sweeping Wisconsin at Wisconsin. And even John Cook was impressed by the turnout of how Wisconsin was able to have a big crowd. Staying within the Big Ten, we had number 3 Penn State taking down Iowa in 4. Remember when I said it was a little surprising to see Penn State sweeping Michigan because Penn State's been through a lot of battles in terms of their matches? Well, Penn State battling with Iowa is a little puzzling, but I guess this is why you play the game of volleyball. So it's not a big deal. Obviously, Penn State wound up winning, but I kind of am a little surprised that Iowa had pushed them to 4. But that's because it's any given match, any given day, any given week when it comes to Big Ten women's volleyball. Veering away from the Big Ten and heading to the ACC, we had Miami, the U, taking down number 5 Stanford in 5. And Stanford was up 2-1 in this match. And then eventually Miami forced a 5th set. I think they were down 24-22 and wound up winning the 4th set 31-29. And eventually wound up winning the 5th set 16-14. It was such a big win for Miami. Miami has beaten Texas, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. And they also beat Stanford, which was very impressive. If it weren't for Miami's other losses to like some of the other teams like Wright State, Miami would be a shoo-in for the NCAA tournament, let alone being ranked in the AVCA coaches poll rankings. But Miami, man, that is such a big win right there. We talk about the class of the ACC. We talk about the teams that are ranked like Pitt, Stanford, Louisville, Florida State, North Carolina, Georgia Tech. Miami is such an under-the-radar team. I think this Miami team is something special, and it's really impressive that they were able to do that. Yes, it was in Coral Gables, but hey, Miami was able to do that, beat a top 5 team again. So great win for the Hurricanes. Jumping to the Big East, we had number 6 Creighton sweeping St. John's. And then another top 10 upset. We had Missouri, the Tigers, taking down number 9 Texas in Gregory Gymnasium in 5. This was such a big win for Missouri. Missouri's kind of that mid team that's like they're not bad, but they're not going to be vying for a national championship. But they do have a very, very, very respectable coach in Dawn Sullivan. That's why I'm so complimentary when it comes to the Tigers, because she's such a fantastic coach. And I think that Missouri can really they're like so sneaky, and they were long yearning for a big-time SEC win, let alone big-time win altogether. And the Tigers got it. So great win for Missouri, taking down number 9 Texas on the road. Now for Texas, I kind of saw that Ella Swindle didn't really finish the match. I think she only played 2 sets, and then eventually Avery Carlson kind of had to take over. So this is their second straight loss in Gregory Gymnasium. So remember, they lost to Texas A&M the week before. So I'm not trying to say that we should be concerned for Texas, but 2 straight conference home losses? That's a little surprising if you ask me. Moving on Friday, we had number 11 Purdue sweeping Maryland at Maryland. Number 12 SMU sweeping Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech. We had number 14 Kentucky sweeping South Carolina at South Carolina. That's a good win right there, just because I basically was spewing nonsense saying, hey, South Carolina could pull off an upset because they love pulling off SEC upsets. Kentucky said, not today, Teran. Then we had number 15, Minnesota, sweeping Michigan State on the road. Solid win right there. We had number 16, Georgia Tech, taking down Duke in 5. We talk about good road wins. This was a good road win. Georgia Tech, they're clinging on to that number 16 spot in terms of like hosting in the NCAA tournament. Georgia Tech better watch themselves, but if anything, everyone should be watching Georgia Tech because they are on fire. And honestly, that's kind of a sneaky good team right there. The only thing is that if they can get fully healthy, they could be an even bigger sneaky good team. And then we had number 17, Baylor sweeping Colorado at home. Number 18, TCU outlasted Iowa State in 5 at home. Nice win right there for TCU. Then we had number 23, Florida State sweeping away Cal. Then we had number 25, North Carolina taking down Clemson in 4. So those were some notable results right there from the ranked teams. I got some notable non-ranked on ranked matchups included, and I hate to have to go to the Big West, but we have to go to the Big West. We had UC San Diego taking down conference leader UC Davis in 5. That's their first win over Davis, if I'm not mistaken. And UC San Diego has been making waves. Now, Davis was kind of due for a little bit of a clunker because they had won 9 straight after they lost their conference opener. And now they kind of had this little heartbreaker on the road. Is Davis bad by any means? No, but we'll get into them in a little bit more. Also on Friday, we had this improbable win. UC Riverside taking down Long Beach State in 5. Now, I didn't go to this match just because, well, I was busy Friday. But I will say I'm very surprised that UC Riverside was able to they were able to come back in that 5th set. I think they were down most of the 5th set. And then, well, actually, no, the 5th set was tight. And then Riverside found its way back after Long Beach State took a brief lead. So, yeah, for Long Beach State, they seem to love to go 5 sets. They didn't really go 5 sets a whole lot in non-conference play as they took down Northwestern in 5, but they didn't really go 5 in most of their non-conference matches. Now they're going 5 all over the place in Big West Conference play. They went 5 with Cal Poly. They lost that one. They went 5 with UC Irvine, lost that one. They went 5 with UC Riverside, lost that one. So the takeaway for Long Beach State is this. If Long Beach, that's just not a good loss right there. That's a bad loss right there. Don't get me wrong. UC Riverside has been long yearning to try to beat Long Beach State under the watchful eye of Nikki Cannon. But that's not a good loss right there. You lost at home. Man. It gets worse with Long Beach State in a little bit. But right now, man, you can't lose to teams like that. Like, remember last year when Long Beach State beat Texas and then they had that bad loss to CSUN, which was probably the biggest upset in probably all of the NCAA women's volleyball world in terms of non-ranked on ranked matches. Well, that the loss to Riverside might be part 2. But again, more on Long Beach State a little bit later. So Saturday, we had number 4 Louisville taking down Notre Dame on the road in straight sets. We had number 8 Kansas defending home court against West Virginia in 3. Number 10 Oregon bouncing back from their loss against Washington and sweeping UCLA at home. We had number 11 Purdue sweeping Rutgers on the road. Number 13 Arizona State swept Utah at Utah. Number 19 Dayton didn't sweep. They wound up taking down George Mason in 4. Number 20 BYU swept Arizona, and that was pretty much that for the ranked matchups. Now, remember when I was talking about the Big West and how Long Beach State, it got worse for Long Beach State? Well, it got worse, but it got worse in terms of figuring out what Long Beach State is, because Long Beach State, less than 24 hours after they lost to UC Riverside, they wound up beating the league leader UC Davis in 5 at the Pyramid. So Long Beach State goes from losing to one of the worst teams in the Big West Conference to now being being the best team in the Big West Conference. So the Big West is really confusing, if you ask me, and it might be the most confusing conference in women's volleyball, in all of women's volleyball. So, and the crazy part is Davis had such a clunker week last week. It's now to the point where they're no longer having first place all to themselves. They're now sharing first place with Hawaii. And you want to know what's even worse for UC Davis? Right behind them is Cal Poly, UC Irvine, and UC San Diego. They're all in the running for that number 1 seed. So if the regular season ended today, Hawaii and Davis would be the number 1 and number 2 seed of the Big West Conference tournament. And Davis would probably have the tiebreaker over Hawaii because Davis beat Hawaii in Hawaii because that's how Davis is. I don't think Davis plays Hawaii again. Looking at no, they do play Hawaii. They play Hawaii this weekend. Cool. In Davis. And that's actually, and most of their matches are actually at Davis to end off the season. So, bully for them. All right, but if the regular season ended today, Davis would be the top seed in the Big West Conference tournament. Then Hawaii would be the 2 seed. Cal Poly would be the 3 seed. 4 seed, 5 seed would be Irvine and San Diego, depending on tiebreakers and whatnot. And then Long Beach State would be the last one in terms of the Big West Conference tournament. Everyone else would be on the outside looking in. So, yeah, the Big West Conference is getting really dicey. Hawaii had themselves a nice week. They took down Cal Poly and UC Santa Barbara, which was big right there. Irvine is back on the up and up. They've won 3 in a row. Hawaii, I think, is probably the most dangerous team as they've won 4 in a row. This week is going to be a big week for them. Well, next week is too, but this week is big because they got to go to Davis. And Hawaii, if they still want that number 1 seed, they're going to need to cross their T's and dot their I's because this week they're at UC Riverside and they're at Davis. So they have not lost to UC Riverside in team history. And then Davis is going to be the big grudge match. And then they end off the season with Long Beach State, UC San Diego, which is going to be huge, and then Cal State Fullerton and UC Irvine, which is also big. All right, but enough about the Big West Conference. I know everyone's not all that interested in the Big West Conference. My boy, Big Mike, the host of our Indiana show, he says, boiler up. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I talked about Purdue and how they were able to take down their opponents. But let's be honest, they took down Maryland and Rutgers. They are for sure not losing to those opponents. All right, and then closing off this week, or week 10, we had Pitt sweeping Virginia Tech on Sunday at Virginia Tech. Number 2, Nebraska took down Northwestern in straight sets. Even though Northwestern wound up losing, they had their first ever sellout, which is awesome sauce for Northwestern. So congratulations to Northwestern on having their first ever sellout, and hopefully we can get more sellouts for them. I think that's great. It's great for the volleyball world. Anyway, so moving on, we had number 5 Stanford taking down number 23 Florida State in 4 at Florida State. That was actually televised nationally on ESPN, and it was a good win for Stanford because if they lost 2 in a row, then that would have been bad news Bears. And also had number 6 Creighton sweeping Villanova. Number 7 Wisconsin got back on track, sweeping Illinois on the road. Then we had the Red River rivalry with Oklahoma, unranked Oklahoma, taking down number 9 Texas in Gregory Gymnasium in 5. That was a big win right there. And Oklahoma's kind of been notching some of these big-time wins left and right. So great win for Oklahoma. And, yeah, I can't wait to see what Tornado Takeover has with Angela Winstead and her soon-to-be fiance, Fred. Talk about that tomorrow on their show. But for Texas, they did not have Ella Swindle, period. They just had Avery Carlson just running the 5-1 offense. So I don't know what's going on in Texas, but consider this. Consider Texas stirred and not shaken, as I'm sure Texas is going to be playing their best volleyball come the NCAA tournament. Like, there's no doubt in my mind Texas is going to make the NCAA tournament. Now, for the SEC, however, looking at the SEC, their grip on the SEC standings isn't as tight as it once was, as Kentucky is now the sole purpose of first place. But right behind them is Missouri, which has won 7 in a row. So Yeah, Missouri is on a tear. Florida is even in the contention of winning the SEC. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on in Longhorn land. They've lost 3 straight at home, mind you. So, hopefully for Texas's sake, it's nothing too big. Maybe I also kind of saw that Jenna Wenas was kind of struggling, but players always have their off night matches. Soon this will all be everything. This will all be nothing more than a distant memory, and Texas is probably going to basically just bowl everybody like they're at a bowling alley and we're all just the pins. Anyway, closing off week 10, we had number 12 SMU taking down Virginia, number 14 Kentucky sweeping Georgia on the road. We had number 15 Minnesota sweeping Michigan on the road, number 16 Georgia Tech outlasting number 25 North Carolina in 5. That was a good matchup, and I feel bad for North Carolina, but they're still having a fantastic season. Georgia Tech is still on fire. They are literally nothing's really stopping them, and once they get fully healthy, this is going to be a team that no one wants to face. Then we had number 19 Dayton sweeping George Mason at George Mason. We had number 21 USC taking down Washington in 4 at home at the Galen Center. God, once again, I wish SC could have had these. I wish USC could have had that big home win against Penn State or Michigan State for that matter, but it is what it is for SC, and we're just going to have to live with it. And then we had number 24, Florida, taking down Ole Miss in 4. And that was pretty much that for all of week number 10. Don't want to go too much down the rabbit hole because I'm already 36 minutes in. So let's check out the AVCA top 25. So we have Pitt 1. The rest, top 4 still is the same. Creighton is now in the top 5, which is a big first for them. After Stanford's loss to Miami, they dropped down. And then we had SMU in the top 10, which I think is awesome sauce. Texas fell all the way down to 15, which is rather fascinating because they could be out of hosting in the first couple rounds, but never count out Texas. Nobody dropped out of the top 25 from last week as there was quite a bit of movement, but yeah, that's pretty much your top 25 right there down below. So yeah, nothing really stands out. I still think that North Carolina should be ranked ahead of Florida State. Like, I just don't understand. But it is what it is, and that Kansas-Arizona being 8-11 is looking very enticing because now we've got the Week 11 matches to watch for, and I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible. So nothing too out of the ordinary until Wednesday, which, speaking of number 8 and number 11, number 8 Kansas plays at number 11 Arizona State. Now, this could be for the Big 12 championship. This is big right there. And I'm not just saying that because puns and whatnot. But yeah, this is going to be a barn burner of a matchup. Why is this not nationally televised? Anyway, but yeah, that is going to be a great matchup right there. I can't wait to see what the Sun Devils have in store for the Jayhawks. Because looking at the Big 12 conference, it's basically just between those two teams, between Kansas and Arizona State. And I'm going to be rather interested to see what the Sun Devils do against Kansas. Because if Kansas, I could see both teams hosting in terms of the Big 12. Well, not why am I saying Big 12? But in terms of the NCAA tournament. But I don't think they're going to be jumping as high as like 8. And maybe Kansas can move up further. I mean, Kansas is 11-0 in the Big 12. Arizona State is 10-1. The closest to those two is probably TCU and then Baylor and whatnot. So, yeah, I think this matchup is pretty much for the conference championship. Kansas has won 11 in a row. Arizona State's won 9 in a row, which I think is pretty cool right there. Arizona State, something to note is that they're actually undefeated at home. So, I'm sorry, Arizona State's won 10 in a row, while Kansas has won 11 in a row. So it's the battle of the scorching hot teams. And Arizona State is still undefeated at home, which I think is pretty cool right there. So we'll see what Arizona State can bring to the table against Kansas. And then Texas takes on Mississippi State at Mississippi State. Texas should bounce back. I would be surprised if they lost that one. You have number 17 Baylor at Texas Tech, number 23 Utah at Colorado. That's a nice little rivalry matchup right there. And that could be a good little, what's the word? Barometer to see if Colorado can make the NCAA tournament. Don't know, but we'll see. Then Thursday, we have this little matchup right here. Number 2, Nebraska taking on number 12, Oregon at Matthew Knight Arena. That's going to be a fun one right there. I'm certain Nebraska is not going to have a Wisconsin hangover. I mean, obviously they beat Northwestern, but Oregon, if they think they're going to roll into Oregon and pick up an easy win, that's not going to happen. Oregon is pretty darn good. They've got Michelle Owobete. They've got Oni Ofobu, Mimi Collier, like I mentioned, Mackenzie Morris. I've mentioned this all throughout the weeks, and their setter is pretty darn good. So Nebraska is really going to have to be on their A game. Also on Thursday, we have number 14 Minnesota hosting Washington. That's another big matchup for Washington. If they can win that one, there's no doubt in my mind they're making the NCAA tournament. And then I guess there's number 18 TCU hosting UCF, but the UCF hasn't really been the UCF of years past. Then Friday, we have number 25 North Carolina at number 1 Pitt. I imagine Pitt's going to win that one, but North Carolina, if they win that one, they're for real in the ACC. They're not going. I don't think they're going to surpass Louisville or Stanford or Pitt, but they'll probably get closer and closer to making the NCAA tournament. Like the way North Carolina is going, I could see them as a shoo-in for the NCAA tournament. Then on Friday, we have number 3 Penn State at Northwestern. We have number 4 Louisville at Syracuse. Number 5 Creighton hosting Butler. Number 6 Stanford hosting Clemson. Number 7 Wisconsin hosting Iowa. Number 8 Kansas at Arizona. Number 9 Purdue at Indiana. So my boy Big Mike was saying boiler up. Well, Purdue actually beat Indiana the first go around in McKee Arena in front of 14,000 fans. But I want to see Purdue winning at Indiana because Indiana seems to play Purdue so much more tougher in Indiana. Also, salute to my boy Marcus Los Great. He says, salute, Teran. Salute to you too, Marcus. USC is still doing good in women's volleyball. Anyway, number 9 Purdue at Indiana. That's going to be a fun one right there. If Indiana can win that one, man, the narratives for Purdue would be raining down like hail in the wintertime. Then we have number 10, SMU hosting Duke. Number 11, Arizona State hosting Kansas State. Number 13, Kentucky hosting Texas A&M. Kentucky, Texas A&M, that could be so underrated. That could be for the SEC crown if Kentucky plays their cards right and if Texas A&M plays their cards right. But for now, this one's going to be a fascinating matchup. And that, if Texas A&M beats Kentucky, that could get them closer to making the NCAA tournament guaranteed. Then we also have number 16, Georgia Tech at Cal. And then we have number 19, Dayton hosting Davidson. Then we have number 20, USC at Illinois. That one's going to be so tricky for USC. And like I said, if there's a team that deserves a little more respect, I think it's Illinois. But USC needs to have the motivation of you want to host in the first 2 rounds. You want to host, you got to run the table. I want to see USC run the table. Would that also include beating Wisconsin? Yes, but USC can do it. Hopefully for their sake. Then also we have round 2 of the Holy War. Number 21 BYU at number 23 Utah. That one's going to be a barn burner. No doubt about it. Get your popcorn ready and prepare yourself for a battle like none you've ever seen. Then you have number 22 Florida hosting Auburn and number 24 Florida State hosting Wake Forest. And then, like I mentioned, Davis hosts Hawaii for first place in the Big West Conference. I imagine Davis and Hawaii won't be looking ahead because they've got UC Riverside on the docket beforehand. Then Saturday, we have number 2 Nebraska at Washington. That's a sneaky good matchup right there. And then also, I imagine this one's going to be on NBC. Number 3 Penn State at number 7 Wisconsin. That's going to be a fun matchup right there. And I am 99% certain that's going to be on NBC and / Peacock. Then you have number 16, Georgia Tech at number 6, Stanford. Georgia Tech is going to be really put to the test that match. And then number 12, Oregon is at number 14, Minnesota. That's a big test for Oregon. This is a big test for Oregon this week, as well as Nebraska. Then you have number 17, Baylor hosting UCF. Number 19, Dayton hosts Davidson. And that's pretty much that for Saturday's matchups. And then Sunday, you have number 1 Pitt hosting Duke. Number 4, Louisville at Boston College. Number 5, Creighton at Marquette. Underrated matchup, but with how Creighton is playing, I think Creighton's going to run through Marquette. But it'll be close, though. Then we have number 9, Purdue hosting Michigan. That's an underrated matchup. Purdue is not going to get an easy one with Michigan, even though Purdue is at home. Then you have number 25, North Carolina at number 10, SMU. I would put some money saying that one's going to be the nationally televised match on ESPN. If not, it's probably going to be Duke Pitt. Then you have number 13, Kentucky hosting LSU. Number 20, USC at Indiana. Number 22, Florida hosting Alabama. Number 24, Florida State hosting NC State. And that's pretty much that for all of the ranked matchups in terms of this week for week 11. So we're going to take ourselves a quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got some AVP to discuss as the regular season is over. Now the league championship is now. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always willing to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IU Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all of that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as Let's Whine About DMV Sports and Sin City Sports with Cale Henderson. All right, let's talk a little bit of some AVP action as the regular season wrapped up this past weekend, and I'm hoping to get through this before the little upside down glitch happens. But for week 8 of the AVP season, it was without any drama, as the New York Nitro had locked up a spot, the Dallas Dream pretty much locked up a spot, and the Miami Mayhem locked up a spot. Actually, the Dallas Dream hadn't locked up a spot, but they were close to locking up a spot, as all that was left was the Austin Aces, the Dallas Dream, the San Diego Smash, and the LA Launch fighting for one of two. Sorry about that. A little glitch right there. It wasn't the upside down glitch or the sideways glitch, but yeah. Anyway, going back to the AVP League. Yeah, so week 8 took place in Dallas, Fort Worth, which is where my brother lives, which is where I've visited. It's a great place. So the first match, this all took place at the Commercia Center in Dallas, where the LA Launch took on the Austin Aces. And that was on the women's side, and it was a thriller as the Austin Aces were able to take down the Launch in 3 sets, 12-15, 15-12, and 15-12. A great way to kick off the first slate of matches in the AVP League finale of the regular season. Then on the men's side, we had another 3-set thriller as the Launch got their revenge on the men's side, winning it 7-15, 15-13, and 15-9, which kept the Austin Aces at bay in terms of clinching a playoff spot. Then we had the Dallas Dream sweeping the San Diego Smash on the men's side, 15-12 and 16-14. Then on the women's side, we had the Smash taking down the Dream in 3 sets, 12-15, 15-11, and 16-14, keeping their small playoff hopes alive and hopefully proving me right. The Dallas Dream pretty much clinched its spot in the playoffs, as that pretty much ended the first day of AVP play of week 8. Then the final day, it was basically big time, as it was make or break, as the Austin Aces needed to pretty much run the table and hope that they get help from the LA Launch. But in the first match, it was the Austin Aces versus the Dallas Dream, and the Dream on the women's side were able to edge out the Aces in 3 sets, 17-15, 12-15, and 15-7. And then on the men's side, the Dream followed suit by sweeping the Aces 15-11 and 15-13, which pretty much knocked the Aces out of playoff contention as they couldn't control their own destiny. But it didn't really matter because the San Diego Smash wound up winning on the men's and women's side. On the men's side, the Smash swept the Launch 15-11 and 15-8. And then on the women's side, the Smash took down the Launch in 3 sets, 15-13 and 12-15 and 15-11. Securing the final playoff spot in the AVP League Championship. As I predicted, okay, I'm kidding. But yeah, your top 4 is as follows. Well, the entire leaderboard is as follows. The New York Nitro finished with 12 wins and 4 losses. Dallas Dream finished with 11 wins and 5 losses. Miami Mayhem finished with 10 wins and 6 losses. San Diego Smash finished with 8 wins and 8 losses. Austin Aces finished with 7 wins and 9 losses. Palm Beach Passion, with my boy Avery Drost, finished with 6 wins and 10 losses. And the Brooklyn Blaze and LA Launch tied for 7th place, finishing with 5 wins and 11 losses. So that's it for the AVP League regular season finale. Before we get on into the AVP League playoff preview, we got this news from Instagram as Alex Kleinman posted that this is pretty much going to be her last dance. She said she basically had the video of thank you volleyball because, as you all know, Alex Kleinman is a mommy and she basically has a son. So, and after the AVP League, she's going to be focusing on mommyhood. So, as we all know, Alex Kleinman is a one-of-a-kind player. She actually was an indoor player, then she transitioned to the beach, and then she wound up winning gold with April Ross in the Tokyo Olympics, which I thought was awesome sauce. And she's been a paragon for not the entire volleyball world altogether, whether it's in indoors or whether it's in on the beach. And I'm glad I was able to interview her, albeit it was very short because mommyhood and whatnot. But I have to thank Megan J. Rice for getting me that interview. But I digress. But yeah, Alex Kleinman, I gotta give you a set point salute for all that you've done in the volleyball world. It's going to be very weird not seeing you, but yeah, you had a fantastic career. And for all that you've done in volleyball, whether it's on the court or off the court, whether it's in beach or indoor, we salute you, and we are all rooting for you to become the best mommy ever. So go kick some butt this weekend, which, believe it or not, she and the Miami Mayhem are partaking in the AVP Championship. So it's going to be something. So there you have it right there in terms of Alex Kleinman news. Now let us preview the AVP League Championship. So this is going to be taking place at Dignity Health Sports Park this Saturday and Sunday. So it's going to be taking place in Carson. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to miss day one because I'm covering another volleyball event that day. So unfortunately, we haven't gotten too many times, which we haven't gotten the confirmed times yet, but I am going to be there for the inaugural AVP League Championship. And unfortunately, I don't know the format of how this is going to work, whether it's going to be a women's match or whether it's going to be like a women's final or a men's final and whatnot. So it's going to feel weird. But yeah, I don't care how I'm going to get to this. I'm going to get there regardless. It's going to be taking place at the Dignity Health Sports Park, the former StubHub Center, and I'm going to be there for sure. So your teams are as follows. So the New York Nitro consists of Taylor Sander and Taylor Crabb on the men's side, and then on the women's side, it's Sarah Hughes and Kelly Cheng. So this is probably the pair to beat. This is probably the favorite to win. So this whole team is comprised of soon-to-be Olympians and now Olympians, which wound up finishing in the quarterfinals. But the New York Nitro looks like the team to beat. I'm sorry to say, but I think this team is going to be very dangerous, and I just don't see a whole lot slowing them down other than like a few certain matchups. And then the Dallas Dream consists of Miles Partain and Andy Benish, as well as Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg. So another team with Olympians on them in Miles Partain and Andy Benish. And then you've got Haley Harward, who is a very respectable AVP player. She's done really well, as well as Kylie DeBerg, who actually both played indoor and then transitioned onto beach as well. So I think the Dallas Dream, I wouldn't say they have the best chance, but they have just as good of a chance of knocking off the Nitro. And then the Miami Mayhem, this is probably the biggest storyline right here. Trevor Crabb and Theo Brunner are on the men's side, and then on the women's side is April Ross and Alex Kleinman. The big storyline for Ross and Kleinman, this is basically the last dance. This is the final week of them playing professional volleyball, and then they're just going to call it quits and move on to mommyhood, which is totally a respectable thing. So, yeah, for the Miami Mayhem, I would not be surprised if they challenged the New York Nitro. If it's 2 versus 3 and then 1 versus 4, I could see the Mayhem wanting to get to the championship. I don't care what it takes. That team still has quite a bit of talent, but it's all about winning the next point and whatnot. And they have a lot of veteran talent. That's the big thing that's going for them. They have veteran talent. Sure, it's not like their talent isn't as youthful, obviously, but I'm not trying to call them old, but I feel that this is the most heralded team in terms of like experience in terms of the AVP. And then the last team we have is the San Diego Smash, consisting of Miles Evans and Chase Budinger, Olympians. And then we have Gina Urango and Tony Rodriguez on the women's side. So, all right, this is a team that was pretty much dead in the water. They were in last place at one point, and then they rose like the Phoenix into the ashes. Heck, they even had me believing they would make the AVP League playoffs, and they did. This team can do anything that they want. I know Miles Evans and Chase Budinger haven't gotten the reps in terms of the AVP like Taylor Sander and Taylor Crabb have. Oh, there's the glitch. I thought I was going to go at least this segment without finding the glitch. But back to Miles Evans and Chase Budinger. They haven't really had too many tournaments together as much as Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander. But I think this team is still – I think they're still as potent as ever. And remember, they were Olympians. They still had reps together and whatnot. And then for Gina Urango and Teran Rodriguez, it's the case of experience meets youth. And I feel that Gina has been such a great mentor to Tony. So I think the San Diego Smash, seeing as they got here, they're probably the most dangerous team. They could definitely be dangerous. Unfortunately, I wish I knew the format of this. And, man, I wish we can get, like, a preview of what the format's going to be. Like, is it going to be, like, women's side versus men's side? Is it going to be, like, a 4x4? Is it going to be, like, a 4-man team without any subs? Oh, God, that would be brutal. Like, I don't know. Like, the AVP hasn't really disclosed any of the rules to us, but it is what it is, and hopefully we'll get like a fun championship. Like if I had to guess, I'd say the final will consist of Miami Mayhem and New York Nitro. Nothing against the Dallas Dream and the San Diego Smash, but the Mayhem want to send April Ross and Alex Kleinman off on top, and then the Nitro have obviously been the best team in the AVP league. So that's my projected final. I'm not going to try to predict the final because knowing my luck, it's probably going to be the Dallas Dream and the San Diego Smash in the final, but I digress. But my final prediction, if it is traditional final, is New York Nitro and Miami Mayhem. If it is like women's pair versus men's pair, like it is traditionally in the AVP, I'm expecting April Ross and Alex Kleinman to get to the final. But that's only if it's like a divided thing, like if it's like separate. But again, this whole AVP league is so new, and there's so many twists and turns and whatnot. So this whole AVP league is new. I can't really like give you all the full 411. Hopefully, I'll be able to have more information by the time the AVP league pretty much has their new format come championship Saturday and Sunday. All I can tell you is that Saturday is basically day one, and then Sunday is going to be the championship. Like, I can't really like give you all the correct format and whatnot, just because the AVP league the AVP hasn't really given me anything in regards to this whole AVP league championship. But I digress. All right, but that is going to do it for the AVP league championship preview. Again, I'm going to be there on Sunday. I don't care if it's going to be like far for me. I don't care if it's going to be like quite far. If it's in Dignity Health Sports Park, I will find a way to get there no matter what. I will find a way. Winners find a way. Losers make excuses. That's the whole old saying. But that's going to do it for the AVP portion of this show. We're going to take ourselves one last commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk some high school girls volleyball. We'll talk a little NCAA men's volleyball because Loyola men's volleyball did something over the weekend which had a lot of eyes popping. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No. Not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernick, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as The Defining Moment, which will be making its return sooner rather than later, and Chi-Town Weekly with Adam Karnick. That's actually a perfect segue to go into our next little topic of discussion. So on this past Saturday, we had Loyola Chicago hiring their new men's volleyball coach in Shane Davis. Yes, the Shane Davis, the former Northwestern women's volleyball coach, who is actually a Hall of Famer in terms of Loyola men's volleyball. So Shane Davis, in case you don't know, he was a student athlete for the Ramblers. He actually ranks amongst the program's top all-time leaders in digs and service aces, as well as assists as well. So Shane Davis is back at his alma mater, and this is very amazing. And I know one person who is giddy about about Shane Davis being the new Loyola men's volleyball coach, being Emily Eman, a former Set Point guest, who actually played for Shane Davis back at Northwestern when Davis was the head women's volleyball coach at Northwestern. But Shane Davis is back at Loyola Chicago, which I think is pretty cool right there. And again, he played from 2000 all the way to 2003, and he served as the head men's volleyball coach from 2004 all the way to 2015, where in 2014-15 the Ramblers wound up winning the national championships, pretty much keeping the trend of back-to-back championships going after UC Irvine started it in 2012 and 2013. But yeah, this was such a great hire, and I totally forgot that Davis was an alum of Loyola Chicago men's volleyball. So I think this is a great home run hire. I didn't even take into consideration Shane Davis, and I totally forgot about the whole little falling out thing from Northwestern. And I'm glad Shane Davis wound up finding his way back onto his feet. So I can't wait to see what Loyola of Chicago men's volleyball has in store for us. I think this is a great hire by the school, home run hire, no doubt about it. And hopefully he can pick up where John Hawks left off as he had great connections in California. But I don't know if he's going to continue to have those connections like John Hawks did in California when he had a great California pipeline from Balboa Bay Volleyball Club, but I digress. But Loyola Chicago men's volleyball should look really good this upcoming season. They've got lots of great players like Jake Reed. He had a great freshman year. They had Daniel Fabakovic, who had another great freshman year. Lucas Anderson, he had a solid season last year. I don't know if Parker Van Buren is back. Oh, wait, what? He's back? Okay, so I guess he has 1 more year of eligibility. He is going to be a redshirt senior, so that's big right there. Parker Van Buren is such a great player for Loyola men's volleyball. And their only question mark is who's probably going to be setter. And that could be Cole Schobel, who got to see some playing time last year, most notably against Hawaii, where, oh man, he was a warrior in that game. So yeah, he's probably going to be projected setter, unless they decide to start a freshman setter, which that would be Jeff Bathurst. But other than that, it's probably going to be Cole Schobel. And Schobel's a good player. I've seen Cole Schobel play during his high school days. So I think Loyola Chicago will be fine this season. Maybe a year of like growing pains, but I think the Ramblers are going to ramble on. All right, but that's going to do it for that little bit of news. All right, now for the CIF Southern section, Division I girls volleyball final. So high school girls volleyball time. The Division I final will consist of Sierra Canyon and Mater Dei at Cerritos College on Saturday at 7 p.m. Pacific time. So I'm going to be there, no doubt about it. And this is kind of the segment which kind of sparked me to doing more high school girls volleyball as well as high school boys volleyball. So yeah, for this little segment, if you all remember last year, I made the prediction between Mater Dei and Mira Costa back when I was on Spreaker. And silly me decided to pick Mira Costa over Mater Dei, completely forgetting about how Mater Dei was not at full strength when they took on Mira Costa, and they were completely gassed from winning that tournament. I think it was the Volleypalooza tournament last year that they won in Texas. So that was a complete mistake on my behalf, and it kind of, I wouldn't say it got me smitten with covering Mater Dei girls volleyball, but it kind of got my foot in the door to like keep on covering Mater Dei girls volleyball, because they're not only one of the best teams in the nation, but they have some pretty darn good talent, and they're going to have the players of tomorrow, the NCAA women's volleyball stars of tomorrow, maybe even the Olympians of tomorrow. But that's looking down the wrong rabbit hole. But yeah, Sierra. Okay, but recapping with what happened with Mater Dei and Sierra Canyon. So last week they were 1-0 going into pool play. They faced their opponents that were also 1-0 in pool play. Sierra Canyon hosted Marymount, which the winner of that match was going to be in first place in pool play and most likely going to have a good opportunity of making the final. Yeah, CIF does things really strange in terms of pool play and whatnot, but that's kind of how it is. They kind of veered away from brackets. They might go back to doing a standard 8-team bracket, but I can't confirm that fully. But yeah, Sierra Canyon took down Marymount last Tuesday in straight sets at Sierra Canyon. And then also on that same day, Mater Dei took down Redondo Union in 4 sets. Now, Mater Dei I wouldn't say they struggled in the first set, but Redondo Union, I said that they were a young team. I didn't think they would be a team that would turn a lot of heads. Next year, Redondo Union is going to be very good. But for now, Mater Dei had their moment in the spotlight. They took down the Seahawks in 4 sets after dropping the first set. And then on Saturday, Mater Dei swept Huntington Beach, which to me, that was not anything surprising. Mater Dei was playing great volleyball. Huntington Beach, unfortunately, lost to Los Alamitos in 4 sets the same night. Mater Dei took down Redondo Union. So the good thing for Huntington Beach is that they're not going to be in the open division come the CIF state playoffs. They're going to be in the Division I bracket, which is so big for them. They're going to be one of the top seeds in the Division I bracket, and that is definitely winnable as opposed to being in the open division. That's no disrespect, but you look at the teams that are going to be in the open division. Sierra Canyon, Mater Dei, Cathedral Catholic from the San Diego section. That's a whole different animal right there. Torrey Pines, and heck, even some of the better teams in the southern section that probably got second place, those are going to be some good teams as well, but I digress. All right, but yeah, Mater Dei swept Huntington Beach. It was actually an earlier game because I have to give a shout out to Addison Williams of Huntington Beach. She actually got I don't know the exact award that she got, but she definitely deserves it, and she's a fantastic beach and indoor volleyball player. So yeah, they moved the game from 6 p.m. to 1 p.m. just so Addison Williams can go to said event in Hermosa Beach. But she definitely deserves that little award, so congratulations to Addison Williams. Her team, unfortunately, did not win the match, but she wound up getting that award, and her team is most likely going to have a deep state playoff run. And then as for the other match, okay, this match was rather interesting. So Mira Costa and Sierra Canyon faced one another. So Sierra Canyon, believe it or not, all they just needed to do was win one set, and then they would have had the tiebreaker over Mira Costa, even if they lost. That was pretty much what happened with Sierra Canyon. They wound up winning the first set, and then the rest didn't really matter. Mira Costa wound up winning the match in 5, and this was little to my knowledge, but I kind of figured because Mira Costa wound up losing to Miramount in the first round of pool play, and then Sierra Canyon lost to Mira Costa, and then Miramount lost to Sierra Canyon. So it was a 3-way tie for first place in Pool A. But since Sierra Canyon had the better set percentage or set overall record, they were the recipient of making it to the CIF Southern Section Division I final, whereas Mira Costa and Miramount were on the outside looking in. And I think I think Mira Costa is going to have the higher seed than Miramount, which I think is unfair for Miramount, just because Miramount gets punished for getting swept by Sierra Canyon, even though they tied for first in Pool A. And I get it. That's just how it is. If Miramount didn't want that to happen, they should have taken a set off of Sierra Canyon. But I just feel that's not fair. You're 2-1, you tie for first in pool play, you get the short end of the stick, and now your seed is going to take a massive hit come the CIF state playoffs. So I feel that is completely unfair for Miramount, but them's the breaks, unfortunately. It's a tough industry that we live in terms of the CIF State Open Division Girls Volleyball Playoffs. It's not going to be like 2019 where the state committee is going to take just 6 teams, whereas nowadays it's going to be like 8 teams from each region, the South region and the North region. But I digress. All right, but the final is between Mater Dei and Sierra Canyon. Okay, so let's take a deep dive on what Sierra Canyon is all about. So Sierra Canyon, they've got a lot of talent on their team. It's a mixture of young talent and experienced talent. Hannah McInnes is a player that comes to mind. You've also got Eva Jeffries, who's been phenomenal offensively. You've got Brandy Boston, who's a senior that's been fantastic. Devin Antoine Dillon, she's been fantastic as well. So you've got those players that are like leading the charge offensively for Sierra Canyon. And this team can be a wagon. If your team is the first place team from the Mission League, then you're doing something right. And the crazy part about Sierra Canyon is that their setters are only sophomores. They've got one of their setters is Olive Shum, and then they've also got Lucky Fasavalu as their other setter. So yeah, this Sierra Canyon team is crazy. And then Lauren Lynch needs no introduction. She's going to San Diego. She's the all-time dig leader at Sierra Canyon. This Sierra Canyon team hasn't made the Division I final in 2 years when they last won it all against Mira Costa. But this team is still potent as ever. Yes, it's a mixture of like sophomores and seniors, but they're very talented, and their body of work speaks for itself. They obviously went undefeated in the Mission League. They had good tournament runs in Durango. I just don't see they obviously had the little blunder in the Redondo tournament where they lost a heartbreaker to Los Alamitos, but other than that, the Sierra Canyon team has been a wagon throughout most of the season. And they also won a tournament in San Diego, if I'm not mistaken. Either way, this team has been a wagon throughout most of the season. So it wouldn't surprise me if Sierra Canyon just threw everything in the kitchen sink at Mater Dei. Speaking of Mater Dei, let's preview them. So Mater Dei, as we all know, they're the reigning everything champion. They're the reigning CIF Southern Section Division I champion. They're the reigning CIF State Open Division champion. They're the reigning national champion, which I think they have a good case of being this year. So Mater Dei, as we all know, everyone thought that Mater Dei was going to be taking a step back with how everything just went downhill early in the season. Everyone thought Mater Dei wasn't going to be the same Mater Dei. But you got to remember, unlike last year, now I have the 4-1-1 on Mater Dei. So early in the year, they didn't have Wesley Mataveo because, well, she transferred from Orange Lutheran and she had to have the sit-out period. Laylee Ostavar was out with a shoulder injury, and Emma Kingston missed a couple matches early in the season because she was sick. So Mater Dei needed some time to get together and to gel with one another because they have all the talent in the world, but it wasn't all on the court. And eventually they didn't have the correct lineup. They didn't have the lineup that was on the court because they have all sorts of talent, but they need to have the correct players to have on the court. So this year they've had a lot of unsung heroes. Obviously, one player that comes to mind is Laylee Ostavar, but you have other players that have stepped up. I mean, when Laylee and Wesley were out, you had Presley Kiffin, who's going to USC. She stepped up. Presley Saunders, who I don't think she's committed yet, but she also stepped up. Addison Cody, a middle blocker, she stepped up when Emma Kingston was out. Emma Kingston, when she got back onto the court, she's done wonders for Mater Dei. I don't think she's going to have a sophomore slump. But yeah, once Mater Dei got back to full strength, that's when this team really started to becoming a wagon. And then their setting has been rather fascinating. They've had several different setters, such as Ava Ostavar. They also had Soraya Dennis, who I think is a very underrated player. She really shined in the Durango tournament, where Mater Dei wound up winning that tournament for the second straight year. But another player who has kind of caught my eye is Sam Kapinpin. I think that's how it's pronounced. But Sam Kapinpin has been phenomenal. I don't think she's the one that is going to UC Irvine. I know Mater Dei has a player going to UC Irvine, but I don't think it is Sam. But either way, this Mater Dei team has been a wagon. And also, this team, in terms of its defense has been really fantastic. Now, the libero position has been really interesting. They start off with Sydney Razuski, who's going to Colgate, and then they switch to Kayla Ostavar, who is going to Cal State Bakersfield. But both players are fantastic liberos. And their defense overall has been great, with Laylee Ostavar and Wesley Mataveo leading the department in digs with 219 apiece. Now it's just all about playing their best match when it matters most. All right, but yeah, that's pretty much the preview of both teams. I hope that kind of broke it down all that well. Both teams obviously wound up going undefeated in their league, and both teams made it to the finals. Mater Dei is making they've made the finals in all but 1 year under head coach Dan Odell, which was the year that Sierra Canyon wound up winning it all. But yeah, Dan Odell started coaching Mater Dei in 2013. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 2020, there were no playoffs. 21 was post-COVID. So 23, 24. So this is going to be Mater Dei's, I think their 12th finals appearance in 13 seasons under Dan Odell. So if we're talking about a consistent girls volleyball team or a dynasty, Mater Dei fits that bill in high school girls volleyball. And then there's Sierra Canyon, which they've won CIF in the lower divisions. They finally got brought up to Division 1 and 2. They made a big splash in Division 1, and eventually they wound up winning the whole thing in Division 1 back in 2022, which was 2 seasons ago. So now for my prediction. Who is going to win the CIF Southern Section Division 1 girls volleyball final? So just gonna make this little adjustment. There we go. So who do I have winning the CIF Southern Section Division 1 girls volleyball final? All right. So, Sierra Canyon, they've had such a fantastic year. They have a mixture of talented sophomores and heralded seniors that have been with the Sierra Canyon program for 2, 3, 4 years. This team screams team of destiny, but when you look at Mater Dei, they have just been on a tear. If there's one word to describe Mater Dei, it's wagon. This team has been a wagon most of the season. I know they had the early season losses to Torrey Pines and to Redondo Union, but they weren't at full strength. They did not have Lely Ostavar and Wesley Mataveo. And those are two key players that Mater Dei needs on a nightly basis. And I know they had a few losses. They had that one loss in the semifinals of the Nike Tournament of Champions, but they weren't in California. It was a long 2 days. Obviously, fatigue settled in. I'm not trying to give Mater Dei a pass here, but still, it's tough to be. And best 2 out of 3 matches are so tough because if you lose a set, then your back's against the wall. And then that match to 13 or to 15 points becomes so much closer than it needs to be. So, yeah. As for Mater Dei Sierra Canyon, look, I really think this match could go either way, but I just gotta go with Mater Dei here. Mater Dei just continues to be dominant in every single way. I think they check off most of the boxes. I think in terms of the libero, maybe Sierra Canyon checks off that box. No offense to the liberos at Mater Dei, but I just think that Mater Dei they're just all around, I wouldn't say better, but I just think they're all around just physical, experienced. Like, Sierra Canyon has some finals experience, but I don't know if they have all the players they have back from that 2022 team. Like, Mater Dei has players from the year they lost to Marymount, which went undefeated. I just think that Mater Dei, with experience, with talent, and which pretty much checks off all the boxes, if not most of the boxes, is pretty much going to upend Sierra Canyon. But I want it to be a barn burner of a match. And if Sierra Canyon does prove me wrong, then I'll be the first to say congratulations to Sierra Canyon for proving me wrong and for winning CIF. But for right now, until I see a team beating Mater Dei in a best 3 out of 5 match, with Mater Dei at full strength, mind you, I'm picking Mater Dei to win the CIF Southern Section Division I Girls Volleyball Final. And ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. I will be seeing you all on Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show and on Saturday for the CIF Southern Section Girls Volleyball Final. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the volleyball action. I will see you Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Peace!